This next video is a continuation of the Standard Test 3 review on radical and rational expressions, equations, and functions. And we're going to pick up with problem 3 and start with A. So our equation is p to the 1/2 plus 36 is equal to 0. Our job when solving any equation is to isolate the variable term. So I'm first going to subtract 36 from both sides. When I do that, I get p to the 1/2 is equal to negative 36. Well, we need to remember that any number to the 1/2 power is the same as the square root of that number, with the numerator being the exponent of our base n and 2 representing the index of our radical. So in other words, p to the 1/2 is the same as the square root of p. If we understand that, then we should understand that the square root of p, the square root of any number, cannot result in a negative value, which means that we in fact have no solution for this equation. But had we forgotten that and continued on with probably your next rational step, which would have been to square both sides, if we square negative 36, we get positive 1,296. And if we had plugged it back in here and added 36 and raised it to the 1/2 power and added 36, we would not have gotten 0. So if you check your answer, it will not work. So please make sure you just remember that the square root of a value cannot equal negative, so therefore we'll have no solution. For B, we have the cube root of 5c minus 6 equal to 3. Well, the radical is isolated, so our next rational step is to cube both sides. When we do that, we drop the radical on the left. 3 cubed is 27. We add 6 to both sides. 27 plus 6 is 33. When we divide by 5, we end up with 33 fifths as our final answer. Moving on to C, we have 2x cubed minus 30 equals 402. So we are first going to add 30 to both sides. We just want you to find real solutions for these. So understand that we taught you that cubic functions have, cubic equations rather, have 3 zeros, 3 solutions, but we just want you to find the real ones. So to find the real ones, after adding 30, we'll divide by 2. Half of 432 is 216. Then we take the cube root of both sides, and you can put that in your calculator, go to math, and then choose the cube root for 216, and that value is 6. Know that you can type that in back in here. You can do 6 cubed, store your value as 6 in your calculator, then type in 2x cubed minus 30, and it should equal 402. Next, we're going to move on to D. With D, we have the square root of 7w minus 6 equal to the square root of 3w plus 8. We don't have any other terms other than our radical terms, so our next rational step would be to square both sides. And then we're back to solving equations with our variable on both sides. We can move our w terms to the same side by subtracting 3w, but if we move our w's to the left, we should bring our integers to the right. So the inverse of subtracting 6 would be to add 6 to both sides, so it will zero out. 3w minus 7w, 7w minus 3w is 4w. 8 plus 6 is 14. Next, divide both sides by 4. Both of these are divisible by a common factor of 2, so we get 7 halves. Next, we have 3x squared minus 81. If we add 81 to both sides, we'll have 3x squared equals 81. When we divide by 3, 3 goes into 81 27 times. We take the square root of both sides, and this is the key here, is to remember that you could have 2 solutions, so we have to have plus or minus. So when we simplify the square root of 27, that breaks down to 3 and 9, which then breaks down to 3 and 3. we have a pair of 3's that comes out, so 3 will remain. So we should have x equals plus or minus 3 square roots of 3. And lastly, for problem F, once we take a look at this, we notice that we have a radical term, but it's not isolated. We have a 7 we need to get rid of and a negative we need to get rid of. Please pay attention to the fact that this is 7 minus, so we are adding this term here. It's a positive 7. To make it go away, we subtract 7. We have to make sure it zeroes out. So don't make the mistake of seeing a minus and putting a plus sign, because 7 plus 7 would be 14. So bring down the minus. Square root of 8k plus 5 equals negative 1. Understand that this is multiplying by a negative 1 essentially, so we can divide that out. That would give us the square root of 8k plus 5 is equal to a positive 1. From there, we square both sides and have 8k plus 5 is equal to 1. 1 squared is 1. And then just continue to solve this simple linear equation. 1 minus 5 is negative 4. Divide both sides by 8. Reduce using a factor of 4. They're both divisible by 4. So negative 1/2 is our answer. All of these, you should store your value as x and plug it into your calculator, making sure that the left side equals the right side of your original equation. Thank you.